if you are inspired to assist us in our planning efforts as we go forward along this track, please see me. If you don't catch me tonight, pick up our blue membership brochure. There's an email address on there. Use that. And I got another commercial. Some of you were here the night that we acknowledged the donations by Betty and Clark Moore. They provided the seed money for this series, and although your donations at the door are vital, there's some baskets out there, and we greatly appreciate all of you who are members and who are going to become members, and those things are all critical. But in order to plan at this level, we're going to need another program sponsor. So please consider becoming one. When you think about it, remember how big a difference 1 or 2 people can make in a community when there is already this kind of synergy and support. A couple of announcements. There's a table in the back with Coexist t-shirts, and that's an initiative by the Youth of Unity. The congregation is Unity of Venice. You're encouraged to take a look at them and hopefully buy one. Also, again, we have reading lists that our board member Janice Scholl has worked very hard at compiling, and they're out on the table. And the lists all allow you to pursue the topics that we've been talking about here. And then I do want to tell you, over the years, people have asked us to videotape our program. So we've been doing that. And if you haven't already gotten the word, the first 3 weeks' programs are now on our website. And if you go to our website, on the home page, on the right side is a list giving the dates and the topics of each of these 6 programs in this series. If you click on that, you will be able to go into more detail and also an opportunity to view the video. So let's see, restrooms are straight ahead when you leave or to the left. I think I've taken care of all of my housekeeping, so I'd like to welcome our good friend and real supporter of this organization, Dr. John Walker.
Good evening. Good evening. We the people. Yeah. All right. It's good to be here. I don't want to be accused of a couple of things. First of all, I don't want to be accused of insulting your intelligence, because everything academically, personally, and professionally is in your bulletin. All right. Secondly, I don't want to be accused of the introduction being longer than the presentation. And with that being said, I want to just say that I've known this individual for almost 25 years now, by watching him and listening to him. That's how he became my mentor. People want to see a sermon before they hear a sermon. He practices what he preaches. He believes in what he preaches in. And he is a man of justice. Just doesn't talk it, and doesn't worry about how many cameras show up or cell phones are in his face. It's about speaking truth to power and making sure that people understand what it means to be a child of the living God and doing justice in that context. I present to you and introduce to you my mentor, my friend, my professor, the one who put the doctor in my name. Now, Mama, he was the one that was on when I defended, he was on the committee. The one who has supported me throughout my ministry, the Reverend Dr. Marvin A. McMickle. Let's give him a hand.
Well, good evening to everybody. It is a delight to be with you. Thank you, first of all, for the invitation to come and be a part of this series. Thanks to Dr. Walker for a very kind introduction and for his continuing friendship across these many years. I keep trying not to be as old as I am, but when people say, well, you've been my friend for 25 years and you were on my committee to approve a dissertation, it's just hard to be 39. So I don't know how Jack Benny did it, but I'm not going to try. But it's good to be here. My wife, here's the thing, 43 years is here. So there's a 39 years right there. There are a lot of friends from Cleveland who have migrated down this way, most notably Marvin Robinson, who was a member of our church, served on the board of trustees, and his wife Brenda sang in the choir. There are other friends from the Cleveland area. Jerry Sue Thornton, she was the president of Cuyahoga Community College when she was there. In the middle is somebody I knew, Bill, working with the public school system in Cleveland in those days. Is there anybody else from Cleveland that I can recognize? Okay, so there are one or two more. And whether I knew you or not, it's good to see you here on tonight. I'm grateful. The wife of Dr. Walker is here, and good to see all of you. So I think the plan is for me to talk till about 8, and then we'll do some Q&A, and we'll see where we go. Now, I will tell you that Q&A becomes for me just another opportunity to talk. So I leave a lot on the back end in order to pick up anything that I don't say initially, but I do want to take that approach. So there is a biblical text that I would like to share with you. I put my cell phone. Yeah, okay. I now keep my Bible electronically, so I'm not taking the phone calls. This is how I actually communicate with the Lord, right through the phone. You have my private number. And believe me, when he calls, I answer. This is taken from the book of the Acts of the Apostles. For those of you who are not Christian, this is one of the early histories of the Christian church. Picks up from the time of the resurrection of Jesus for the remainder of his earthly ministry, and then transitions into the ministries first of Peter, and then Barnabas and Paul, and subsequent disciples, and it ends with the church essentially relocating from Jerusalem to the city of Antioch, and then finally to the city of Rome. So this is at the beginning of that narrative. And it is at a point just before the earthly ministry of Jesus is over. The ascension back into glory is about to take place. It is a last-minute conversation between Jesus and the 11 disciples. The 12th one has not yet been selected. That will come in just another few verses. So I'm going to read verses 6, 7, and 8 as a way to frame our discussion for tonight. So it reads as follows, and this is from what is called the New International Version. Then they gathered around him, they meaning the disciples, and asked him, I want you to hear this phrase as carefully as you can. Lord, are you at this time going to restore the kingdom to Israel? I'm going to make 4 separate observations. Point 1, Lord, are you? Point 2, at this time. Point 3, restore. And point 4, the kingdom to Israel. So these are the 4 issues that the disciples are posing. Are you going to restore the kingdom to Israel at this time. He said to them, it is not for you to know the dates or the times the Father has set by his own authority. But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you, and you will be my witnesses. I'll repeat that. And you will be my witnesses. In Jerusalem, and in all Judea, and in Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. That's the framework. So I want you to consider with me what might be wrong with the question that was raised by these disciples. Lord, will you at this time restore the kingdom to Israel? And superimpose that one question on top of our discussion tonight about the shaping of the local community and about efforts to engage and overcome issues of racism and discrimination. Lord, will you at this time restore the kingdom to Israel? First thing I want to point out is who it was that they were looking to do something next. Lord, will you? Now bear in mind that for the preceding 3 years, Jesus had been training these 12 men, now down to 11, with the death of Judas. For just this moment, for 3 years, he thought, been preparing them to carry forward the work that he had begun, but which it was his intention that they would carry forward. But just before he leaves the earth, the last thing they want to ask him is, what are you going to do next? Lord, are you? Now let's make a parenthetical observation. The work of freedom, the elimination of racism, the creation of what Martin Luther King Jr. and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference referred to as the beloved community, cannot be achieved if everybody is asking what somebody else is going to do. If all that we can do in pursuit of justice or in pursuit of freedom or in pursuit of social transformation is make assignments, well, you would be a good person to do this, or you should do that, or why don't you do this, that, or the other. But nobody ever volunteers themselves for the work. Then the work will never be accomplished. Because, let me begin by saying this to you. The end of racism does not begin with somebody else. The end of racism begins with each one of us. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with you. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with them. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. So the first problem with their observation is that it is a transference of responsibility from them to him. What else are you going to do? Now, as a Christian, I will remind other Christians, and for those of you who are not, I will remind you of the things that Jesus had already done up to this moment. He'd already fed 5,000 with 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread, walked on the water, healed the sick, given sight to the blind, and been raised from the dead. So you would think that his work could justifiably be called accomplished. But they say, what else do you have? Lord, will you? I hope when you leave tonight, you are leaving with this. Lord, what do you want me to do? What assignment can I take on? What difference can I make? How do I leave both this conversation tonight and this series of conversations, the ones leading up to this evening, and whatever may come next, how do I walk away from this experience more determined, more resolved, more committed, more devoted to doing something myself? If nobody around me does anything else, what can I do? So that's the first one. Lord, will you? Now then comes the second one. At this time. Now, for my Jewish brothers and sisters, this is a messianic insight. These are Jewish men, all of them, who've been waiting for 700 years for a Messiah to come. And in their mind, at least, the Messiah had come in the person of Jesus Christ, or Jesus of Nazareth. And with the coming of the Messiah was a certain political expectation that the nation of Israel would be restored to a previous glory, and at least one could expect that Roman oppression would be overthrown. And they had been waiting for that for 700 years. And they were tired of waiting. They were wondering, when will this ever happen? 8th century BC, 7th century, 6th century, 5th century. Now in the 1st century AD, the power has passed from the Assyrian Empire to the Babylonian Empire, to the Persian Empire, to the Greek Empire, to the Roman Empire, and they're still oppressed. And if this is the Messiah, and he's getting ready to leave, this is our last chance to ask him, are you going to do this now? All oppressed people wish that their oppression had ended long ago. And they are running out of patience, wondering how much longer they have to wait. I thought today, as I was thinking about you, the first verse of a very beloved hymn in African American circles. In fact, it's called the Black National Anthem, or the Negro National Anthem. But the title, the official title, is Lift Every Voice and Sing Till Earth and Heaven Rings, ring with the harmony of liberty. That our rejoicing rise the listening skies, let it resound loud as the rolling sea. And then it has these three sort of phases. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. So it is in that first stanza, this sense of time going by, and we haven't gotten there yet. Faith taught by the dark past. Hope taught by the present moment. But still facing the rising sun until the victory is finally achieved. In his book entitled Why We Can't Wait, which is Martin Luther King Jr.'s reflection on the 1963 Birmingham, Alabama campaign for racial integration, he makes this observation in what is now popularly referred to as Letter from Birmingham Jail, where white people say to them in Birmingham in 1963, can't you just wait? Do you have to push so hard? Can't you give us more time? Can't you slow down just a little bit? And Dr. King's observation was that in African American ears, wait almost always means never. Wait is just a way of pushing off the work that has to be done now. So really, what these apostles are saying is, we have been waiting. I remember the years that I spent in the civil rights movement, and perhaps more than once myself carried such a placard that said, "Freedom now!" I can hear the chants of those marching down the street. What do we want? Freedom. When do we want it? Now. Well, all oppressed people want freedom now. Women who suffer from unequal wages want freedom now. LGBT persons who suffer because of the presumptions of a certain discrimination want freedom now. Hispanic people want freedom now. Anybody who is oppressed doesn't want to wait much longer for other folks to decide when they can receive their freedom. What do you want? Freedom. When do you want it? That's all they were saying to Jesus. I don't fault them. 700 years is a long time to wait. Except that in the wonderful play, well, novel turned play turned motion picture, Fizzle on the Roof, there's this awful scene where the Russians are about to commit a pogrom on this little village of Anatevka in Russia. And people rush up to the rabbi and say, "Rabbi, we've been waiting all our lives for the Messiah to come. Wouldn't now be a good time for him to come?" And all the rabbi could say was, "I guess we'll have to wait for him somewhere else." Lord, will you act this time? So the first observation is that the work of freedom falls to all of us and not designated to any one particular person or group or race. The second point is there is always an urgency on the part of the oppressed to get beyond their oppression, and there's always a certain reluctance on the part of oppressors or those who are dispassionate. There is something worse than being an oppressor, and it is being disinterested in the oppression. Dante's observation, the hottest place in hell is reserved for people who, in times of crisis, cling to neutrality. You can be an oppressor, or at least contribute to the oppression by just saying and doing nothing. You can say, "I'm not a racist." Your saying that you are not a racist will not cause racism to stop. You've got to go a little further than that. But let me press on. Now comes the third question. Lord, will you at this time, and I want you to really appreciate this next one, restore. This is another messianic observation. They're now being a bit more specific about what they want to have happen at this time. Take us back to the days of David and Solomon. That's what they want. Take us back to a time when the nation of Israel was one of the preeminent nations, if not perhaps in its immediate region, the preeminent nation. 10th century BC, 9th century BC, 8th century BC, David and Solomon. Vast empires, great economies. Take us back. Restore it to us. They wanted to make Israel great again. They wanted to go back to a time which, at least in their mind, was better for them. Take us back. When I hear Donald Trump say that he wants to make America great again, I'm with him up to the last word. I really do want to make America great. I have absolutely no objection to the first part of the phrase, make America great. Now, first of all, this is not his phrase. Richard Nixon said he wanted to make America great. Ronald Reagan said he wanted to make America great. They all just got stuck on the last word. What is it about Republican presidents and again? Because I want them to tell me when that was. Back to when do you want to go? When do you say, not you, these three presidents, when do you say America was great to the point that you want to get back to that? So let's do a roll call of history. In the 18th century, the origins of America, the teeth of the transatlantic slave trade, the defining of people of African ancestry as 3/5 of a person, and that only so that you could calculate their worth in terms of taxation and your political representation. But their humanity was completely of no interest. You want to go back to that? 19th century. And the Trail of Tears. The complete disruption of the lives of Native Americans. Donald Trump today, in commenting about Elizabeth Warren. I'll see you on the campaign, capital T-R-A-I-L. I'll see you on the campaign trail. Clearly, sort of dodging, pushing this notion of Indian ancestry. Yeah, but see, references to the trail, when used explicitly to link it to Native American people, in no bad manner. The Trail of Tears is no joke. Cherokee people forcibly uprooted from the east side of the Mississippi River and forcibly relocated from places like this, Seminoles and Cherokees, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and taken from this environment to Oklahoma. What difference does it make? It is convenient for us to have access to the land so we can expand slavery and plant more crops and be rid of these troublesome people. Let's restore. Let's go back to that. Is that what we want to go back to? Back to the early 20th century. Before child labor laws and before women could vote. Tell me exactly when it is you want to go back to make America great. Again, ask yourself, when would it satisfy you to make America great? When it looks like what? When who lives where? When who occupies the White House? When who controls the Congress? Make America great again. Make Israel great again. Restore it. About 30 years ago, somebody asked then Senate Majority Leader Trent Lott of Mississippi, when was America's golden age? Now, you see, when you ask a question in the past tense, you are assuming that it is not now and will not come. That somehow the moment had been missed. When was America's golden age? And Trent Lott from Mississippi said, America was never better than it was in Mississippi in 1955. I'm sure it was great for him. He was a cheerleader at Ole Miss in 1955. My hometown, Chicago, not too far from where I lived in Chicago, lived a young boy named Emmett Till, who went to Mississippi in Trent Lott's golden age. And I Southern mores. If somebody was cute, we whistled. Chicago, Southside, blues, B.B. King, Bobby Blue Band. We talked, I guess you couldn't do that in Money, Mississippi. Because the next time anybody saw or heard from Emmett Till, they were digging his body out of a mud pile with a bullet hole in his head and the motor of a cotton gin tied around his neck with strips of barbed wire. He was so badly deformed that the people thought you ought to have a closed casket funeral because it was just too awful to look at. And his mother said, no. I want an open casket funeral so the world can see what they did to my baby in the golden age. What is it that you want me to restored? Now, white privilege, white supremacy, white advantage would say, we just want to be at a time when we are still firmly, thoroughly, completely in control. All of this business about the southern border and a wall and immigration is in the end tied to this very discussion. It is white anxiety about a changing demographic in the country and what it might feel like to you to someday be the population minority. Lord, will you at this time restore the kingdom to Israel? These men all knew there were Egyptians in the world, but they did not want Jesus to include them in their kingdom. They knew there were Greeks and Romans, Nabateans, Ethiopians. I'm not quite sure how far the geography of the typical first century Palestinian male might have stretched, but they knew at least these major national groups. They knew there were Romans and Greeks and Egyptians and Ethiopians, but they made a very explicit question. Will you restore the kingdom to us? Which leads me to this play on words. I'll say it fast at first, and then I'll slow it down. But you're going to catch this pretty quickly. Justice, justice. Justice, justice. 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 But just for us. Sometimes for African Americans in this country, it seems to us that justice is not for us. When stopped by a police officer, why do we have to instruct our sons and daughters to behave in a certain way, lest a police officer decide that his or her life is in danger, and fearing for their lives, they shoot our children in a car? I'm not saying that the police officers are wrong in every case, far from it, or that all of our children are angels on their way to heaven. Far from it. All I'm saying is give people the benefit of the doubt before you shoot. If justice is for all of us, if we really mean liberty and justice for all, any of those words, they're tracking now by the fourth grade the number of jail cells that will be needed to incarcerate African American men by the time they reach 16, 17, 18 years of age. Do you think that your children are being tracked and prepared, jail cells getting ready for them? No, it doesn't work that way in the white community. In the black community, preparations are underway for incarceration. It is what Michelle Alexander calls the new Jim Crow. It is the way by which a population that we cannot enslave or thoroughly segregate must somehow be managed. Managed. Like a herd of sheep. Let's manage the herd. Let's call this group out. Let's lock them up. Let's restore the kingdom just to us. So let's go back and say this all again. And contemporize. Lord, will you? No, I will not. That's what I trained you for. Go do it. At this time, I understand your anxiety. Why does it take so long for justice to be done? Restore. America's fascination with nostalgia is a phenomenal thing. Past always seems better than the present. If you could go back to any time in life when you thought America was at its best, who would have to be left out of that vision? Who wouldn't have a house where they want to live? Who would not be allowed to vote in the next election if you went back to the era that you thought was America at its best? Because every time we go back in time, we leave some group out. The forward movement of history is the movement to include more people. The backward glance of history is to try and de-engage people that you never really wanted to have power to begin with. I mean, listen, let's be honest. On the night that Barack Obama was being inaugurated, Mitch McMickle and his henchmen were holding a meeting during the inaugural balls to find a way to object and defeat every initiative that he introduced. Because in their mind, that was never supposed to happen. And in the minds of many, as long as they have anything to say about it, it will never happen again. Now, I will tell you this, 70-year-old African-American male, born in 1948, I never dreamed that I would live to see in this country an African-American president of the United States. I cannot tell you what that meant, 15 or 16 million of your fellow citizens. See the promise of America come to fruition. I also cannot tell you the hurt and the pain that those same 16 million felt every time there were attempts to delegitimize him. Was he really born in this country? Well, unless you think that Hawaii is not a state, yes, he was. But he is a Muslim. Well, he belonged to a Christian church all of his life. All of these were attempts to delegitimize a forward motion in American history. Put yourself in my shoes just for a moment. Go to bed with Barack Obama in the White House and wake up with Donald Trump. It is a painful, almost nightmarish experience. He could have supporters here. I don't know. I don't care. You know, I'm too old to worry about it now. I didn't come to Florida to make friends. I came to talk about why we have not yet overcome. So now let's turn the corner to the next part of the verse. Lord, will you at this time restore the kingdom to Israel? Jesus alone can be heard saying, no, 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 no. I'm not doing any of those things. But here's what I want you to do. And he says, be my witness. Or be my witnesses. So this is what I want to ask you to do. In the struggle against racism, and sexism, and homophobia, and Islamophobia, and anti-immigrant sentiments. In the struggle against all of that, be a witness for a better way, for a more open society, for a more inclusive view of the world. But now let's break this word witness down into three manageable, measurable categories. A witness is someone who does the following three things. A witness sees something. A witness says something about what they have seen. And a witness, we're going to come to the Greek word for witness, which is martyria. Say that word slowly. Martyria. Martyria. A witness is someone who is prepared to suffer something for the sake of what they have said in response to what they have seen. We cannot talk our way out of racism. We can't convene our way out of racism. We can't panel discussion our way out of racism. We can't have pulpit exchange programs as a way of getting out of racism. Somebody has to leave some blood in the passageway. If nobody is willing to do anything that costs them something, no sacrifice, no suffering, not the hint or risk of any danger. I don't want to lose any friends. I don't want to lose any status. I don't want to create any confusion. I don't want to start any talk about I'm becoming too liberal. If you don't want to pay any price, then just stop meeting. It's just a waste of time to just meet and meet and meet. If when it's time to do something, there's a point beyond which we cannot count on you being able to go. See something, say something, suffer something. Let's slow that down now. See something. You got to pay attention if you want to fight racism. Because, you can't fight racism. Racism is a symptom of some other really complex problems. If you want to attack racism, you got to attack poverty and the root causes thereof. If you want to attack racism, you got to attack the prison industrial complex and the root causes thereof. If you want to attack racism, you have to attack failing public educational programs and the underfunding thereof and the competition that comes when other systems arise to compete with public education and drain away the best students and a lot of the funding, and only the poorest children get left behind. Listen, people have been running from integrated education since the Brown decision of 1954. My wife is in the front row. She's from Elberton, Georgia. Do you think in 1954 the Georgia State Board of Education rushed to comply with the Brown v. Board of Education and said, we've been wrong all of these years. Let's stop doing it. Let's just end this Jim Crow system. No, they did. They maintained a segregated school system in Elberton, Georgia until 1978. 24 years after Brown. And when they finally decided to do something, they refused to say we are desegregating. They said instead we are consolidating. That's how Georgia got around segregation in schools. They consolidated. Now, here's their logic. We have too many high schools. Why do we have a white high school and a black high school? How did we ever have two high schools? Why do we have 4 middle schools? Why do we have a whole team of cooks and chauffeurs and janitors in these different schools? Let's make this an economic decision. Let's consolidate. Now, if you had two high schools, and the black person was the principal of the black high school, and the white person was the principal of the white high school, and you had two football head coaches, and one in the black school was black and one in the white school was white, and if you had two of anything else, and you consolidate, who do you think got consolidated out? If you never say racism, just find some clumsy terminology to act as if Jim Crow never took place. But you can say, well, this is a cost-saving measure. But when the Brown decision first hit the ground, white Christians responded in the following way. I invite you to go through Florida and look at the cornerstones of private Christian academies in Florida that are usually attached to very large Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian, and Episcopal churches. And look at the cornerstone of the church, 1820, 1830, 1750, 1690, very old churches. And then look at the cornerstone date of their private academy. 1958, 1961. Why was the church founded in 1680? But the academy wasn't founded until 1960. Because the threat of school integration resulted in people trying to find a way to still say, not us. So create a private school. Dishonor the name of Jesus by calling it a Christian academy. And perpetuate segregation as a way of resisting compliance with federal law. In Florida. In Georgia. In the Carolinas. In every state in the Confederacy. Who never agreed to immigration. And in many instances do not agree yet. There are lots of ways to hide from immigration. Lots of ways to isolate oneself from a multicultural experience. See something. See what's going on. If we're going to solve this problem, we have to pay attention to what's going on. So a witness sees. But you see, seeing is the most dangerous thing because it leads then to the second part. Are you prepared to say something about what you've seen? Think about the oath that you take in a court of law when you put your hand on the Bible and you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Why? Because you're being called as a witness in this case. They don't want your opinions. They don't want second-hand data. They want you to tell the whole truth about what you have seen. Have you seen overcrowded jails? Have you seen crumbling public housing? Have you seen the vestiges of Jim Crow? 2019, and we are hearing about public officials who are invoking the relics of the 1840s. You understand that blackface started with minstrel shows in the 1840s? White people pretending to be black people. It was so bad that people like Burt Williams, a famous African-American comedian, worked with the Ziegfeld Follies in the 1910s. A black man had to put on blackface to pretend to be black. getting old. A medical yearbook in 1984? I don't care if he's in the picture or not. I could care less if it's him or not. It's the school I wonder about. How do you let a yearbook be released under your name next to one of your students in which there appears the picture of two entities? An 1840s blackface individual, and much more seriously, about which there is no joke. No minstrel show history. The minstrel shows did not put people in Klan outfits. In the yearbook. First, the poor soul says, well, yes, that was me in the picture. And then he said, no, it wasn't me. I don't know. But do you see? And what do you say? Something about what you've seen. Courage begins not with your eyes. Courage begins with your public speech. It begins with what you are prepared to say about what you believe in your soul to be wrong. But saying while it is good, seeing while it is necessary, does not result in any immediate social transformation. I believe that there are people in this country who know and have always known that certain social customs, certain racial configurations, certain exclusionary tactics were wrong. It's not that they didn't see it, and it's not that they didn't know it, and it's not that they didn't feel it. It is they were not prepared to separate themselves from the majority of their community by saying so out loud. So you go home and whisper it to your spouse, or you pull your best friend aside and you share it in secret. But to stand up in a public forum and say it. I have a recollection of racism seminar in which I was involved back in Cleveland through a group with which both Dr. Funk and Myra Robinson may have some recollection. It was called Leadership Cleveland, and it was a process by which they tried to introduce across racial and cultural lines people in leadership positions in the black and white community. At one of these Leadership Cleveland seminars, they brought in a woman from the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. Her name is Valerie Batts, B-A-T-T-S. And Dr. Batts created, back in the 80s, this concept of modern racism, in which he said, if you want to find a racist, don't look for blackface and don't look for Klan outfit or noose or any of the paraphernalia from 1840 to 1960. Forget all that. They've changed. Jim Crow has become James Crow Esquire. And here are the 4 signs of it. So the first sign, he says, always internal. Whatever you say with your mouth, what do you feel in your heart? I just don't like those people. My wife and I lived in a house in Montclair, New Jersey, into which we moved in 1976. We were as was often the case in those years, the first black family on the block. 1976, the first black family on the block in northern New Jersey. We lived next door to a family that owned a flooring and tile company. And every morning when I saw him or her, I would say, "Good morning." I didn't know their name. "Good morning." They wouldn't even give me the courtesy of They just acted as if I or Peggy weren't there. This went on for 2 years. They just didn't like those people. And they were certain that their property values were going to fall because I was there. Of course, I had no sense of how to put a flower in the ground, or how to cut the grass, or how to move the snow, how to paint the house. Of course, I wouldn't have known anything about that. They just did not like us. One year, one of my seminary classmates from New York City came to visit. They had just given birth to a child. They brought along the playpen. They put the playpen in the backyard of our house in Marvin, New Jersey. I noticed he was gone for a while, so I looked out the kitchen window to see what had become of my friend. He went. Lo and behold, my friend is leaning over the fence that divides my property from my neighbor's property, and they're involved in this intense conversation. My friend then comes into the house and says, "How well do you know your neighbor?" I said, "Well, I've been trying, but I don't know anything about him." He said, "We were out there talking about you this whole time. I had to remind him that you were of the human race." He said, "Come with me." And my seminary classmate introduced me to my next door neighbor. But the next 8 years, once he stopped seeing me as a black person about whom certain prejudicial assumptions could be made, and got to know us as human beings, when his wife discovered that Peggy was about to give birth to our child, she insisted that our son be rocked in their child's cradle. And when one or the other of them died, when the wife died, the man who would not speak to me for 2 years insisted that I preach the eulogy at her funeral. Now, what had changed was that they took the time to know the person and did not live any longer with the stereotype. I know a whole lot of folks who are anti-LGBT. They just think it's the worst thing in the world. Those people. And then suddenly they meet somebody. Sometimes it's a person in their own family. My good friend Al Sharpton was hard on the LGBT people for a long time until his daughter came out. Now don't you dare say a word about it. You never saw Al get mad, so you get mad on an issue like that. So the first level of racism is internal. Nobody can free you from that but you. I just don't like them. The second level is what she says is third-party racism. So let's say that this gentleman here and Dr. Walter, two men, one white and one black, are perfectly good friends. They get along perfectly well, and they're having lunch in their common workplace, just talking about whatever it is. No problems at all. They're both free of the bigotry, they think. And then the third person walks in the room, either a black bigot or a white bigot. And suddenly you have to ask yourselves the question: do I maintain my relationship with my black friend at the risk of appearing to do in the presence of this white bigot, or vice versa. You follow me? Can you be shamed out of your liberalism by the presence of someone who does not share a similar openness? Racism is not really just how you feel on the inside. It's who you prefer in mixed company. It's whether or not you're prepared to be as free as you think you are in the presence of those who are not as free as you wish they were. Third level, she says, is culture. Whose culture is best? What music gets played in the elevator? What artwork is allowed in the workplace? Whose food is real American food and whose food is sort of, well, who is better? Mozart or McMickle Jackson? In 1908, there was a play in New York City written by a Russian playwright who was an immigrant called The Melting Pot. It was a play in 1908 about the pressure that was put on immigrants to conform to white Anglo-Saxon Protestant norms. Change your name, drop your language. If you can, change your religion. If necessary, change your nose and get melted into the pot. Cleveland is full of Eastern European immigrants whose parents told them they were growing up, for God's sake, don't speak Lithuanian at school. Blend in. Now, if you think that a white Lithuanian is forced to blend in, imagine. Except you see, Michael Novak's 1972 book called The Rise of the Unmeltable Ethnic says there are some of us, a nose job won't be enough. I could change my religion to anything in the world. What I cannot change is what is most obvious in presentation. Why do we have to have a melting pot? Why do I have to blend into you? Why can't we have what John reminded me of the other day that I taught somewhere? Why can't we have a salad bowl? Green lettuce, brown croutons, red and white radishes, balsamic vinaigrette dressing, black raisins. Who would take a salad like that? All that richness, all that distinctiveness, all of that color. Who would take that and put it in a blender to end up with God knows what? I wouldn't want to eat it with everyone. No. Why can't we be enriched by our differences and our uniquenesses, as opposed to all of us having somehow to conform to some of us? Cultural racism. Only my culture can be preserved. It's why most white people do not observe Martin Luther King Jr. Day. It is a federal holiday, just like all the other federal holidays. But we're trying so hard to make it as irrelevant as President's Day. Go buy a sofa on King Day. Let's celebrate the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama, by getting a new refrigerator. Cultural racism. And then finally, that's power limits, invisible glass ceilings. How high up can people go in your organizations, in your companies, in your cultures? When do people discover that there really was a glass ceiling there after all, but it was so well disguised, I did not know it till I almost got through. And found out, look, you and you and you can come through. But you and you and you cannot. And it takes a while before they tell you why. Just glass ceiling. So, see something, say something, and the moment you say it, be prepared to suffer something. Quotation from Jesus and one from Dr. King. Jesus says, he who seeks to save his life will lose it. He who seeks to lose his life for my sake will find it. And Dr. King said, if you have not found something that is worth dying for, you aren't fit to live. What would you die for? And how broad is that circle? Well, some people would die for the country, or risk dying. Die for their family, or risk dying. Die for, I don't know what else, or risk dying. How far does that risk run? For whom would you be willing to suffer? On whose behalf would you want to risk? If the price of my freedom was some momentary inconvenience on your part, but you had to do it in the presence of other people who have not reached your level of openness, would you rather them and their bigotry, or me and my black humanity? I can't answer any of these questions for you. All I can tell you is that Acts 1:6-8 has the answer. If we're going to have a better world, it's going to start with each one of you and with me. If we're going to stop having to wait longer and longer and longer before freedom comes, each one of us has to do our part. We have to have more interest in the future than we do in reclaiming a comfortable past. And we have to move from just us to justice. And along the way, see something. Say something bold about what we have seen. And then get ready to suffer something. Dr. King often quoted this poem. I'll leave you with it. Truth forever on the scaffold. Wrong forever on the throne. But the scaffold sways the future. And behind the dim unknown standeth God within the shadows, keeping watch above his own. Thank you for listening.
Just in case you have a little more wind left. We're going to have two mics there and here, like before. We will alternate back and forth if you have questions. And I ask you to be brief, and I know that's very difficult. So if anyone has any questions or concerns with the doctor, the mics are open and available.
I heard today that there's a debate going on in the ACLU, and I wondered if you might weigh in. It's about the First Amendment. They apparently are defending the white nationalists that marched in Charlottesville, and some of their members are upset about that, feeling that, you know, there is speech that we shouldn't tolerate. I wonder if you might address that.
This is a really complicated question. Who decides when speech has gone too far that it becomes offensive or intrusive? I'm of the mind of those who say, I may disagree with everything that you say, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say it. So the march in Charlottesville, as hurtful as it was elevated by two things. Bad enough that grown men who should have known better, carrying torches as if they were involved in the 1930s Nazi rally in Nuremberg, confirmed by the chant of blood and soil, which was the Nazi slogan. Bad enough that. Bad enough that there was a rally the next day. Okay, listen, I've been to Klan rallies. I went to a Klan rally. Well, I went to an anti-Klan rally in Painesville, Ohio. Why am I going to an anti-Klan rally in Painesville, Ohio? And we were there because they were going to have a march the next day. They were perfectly free to have their march. We were perfectly free to march against them. Like tonight, President Trump was having a rally in El Paso. Fine. There's a counter rally going on at the same time. That's America. Okay, that's free speech. What bothered me about the Charlottesville was one, the car that drove into the crowd, for what reason I cannot imagine, except just pure hate, and killed a person, and then tried to get away. But I've seen white hatred before, so that didn't surprise me. White people have been brutalizing people for a long time. No, the part, the speech, the spoken word that offended me came from the White House, not from Charlottesville. I can live with rallies. I know there are people who feel this way. Fine, I'm not going to try to keep you from saying how you feel. But when the President of the United States in the White House was a photograph of Andrew Jackson over his shoulder, he who orchestrated the Indian Removal Act of 1830, and says there were very fine people on both sides. I just need to know what is a very fine Nazi. What is a very fine Klansman? What is a very fine bigot? His is the speech I would like to disallow. If I could push a mute button on his mouth so that he would not speak for the next 2 years, if you won't have the decency to quit, and you insist on finishing your term, then just sit there and shut up. Everything he says is disruptive. I mean, today he was talking about the art of human smuggling. That human smuggling is an ancient art. You mean the slave trade? You mean the smuggling of girls into organized circles of prostitution? That's an art. The man is intellectually, emotionally, psychologically, experientially unfit for the job. In my view. So I would give the ACLU a little slack. They almost have to do that, to defend free speech, because there's going to come a case when somebody else is going to want to speak freely and they'll be able to do it. It's not going to worry about. It is 45. I don't know how long it's going to take this country to recover from the divisions and the blatant disregard of democratic values, the weakening of democratic institutions. When half of your cabinet are acting Secretary of Defense, acting secretaries, everybody's acting. You know what? Because they are. They're all acting like they know they're doing. I know I'm harsh. Yes?
Thank you for tonight. Thank you for your courage. So, there's a lot of us white folks here tonight. And
yes, you are.
So
I noticed that.
my neighbor says he's been black long enough to know and think differently than I can ever think to know. So I'm reading in our book group Desmond Tutu's book on forgiveness and how they got through apartheid.
Yes.
And the only way they did it was courageously to all come clean.
Mm-hmm.
So when my white friends and family say I'm not racist, I always question, well, of course I was raised in white privilege. I must have some racism within me. It just is. So how would you counsel us, any community, of how to come clean about our own racism, which we, as liberals, possibly try to defend or deny or to minimize? How would you counsel us on that?
I think what they had in South Africa was the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And the premise was that we cannot be reconciled if you won't tell the truth about what you have done to these people for 60 years, since 1948, and the beginning of apartheid. You may not be a racist. You just happen to live in a country that has historically preferred the rights, opportunities, and privileges of white people, disproportionate to the rights and privileges and opportunities of other people. So you are living in a society that has used race as the basis upon which to grant opportunity. Meanwhile, you have to acknowledge that had it not been for the 400 years, this is 2019, the first indentured servants came to Jamestown, Virginia in 1619, so that since 1619, the inequitable treatment of African people has contributed mightily to the American economy. So I commend to you a book called Ebony and Ivy. Not Ebony and Ivory, that's a song with Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney. It is a wonderful song, but that's not what I mean. Ebony and Ivy. And what it does is it traces the relationship between slave-owning families in the South and the construction of buildings, dorms, academic structures on every Ivy League campus in the country. Princeton, Harvard, Yale. The only one that really is exempt would be Cornell, because Cornell was founded after the end of slavery. But all the other seven. So that if you went to Harvard, if you went to Yale, if you went to Dartmouth, if you went to Brown, do you know who Brown was? The Brown University. No, he was not a slave trader. He was the builder of the ships that sailed back and forth to bring the slaves. And Brown University is built on the profits of the slave trade. And these magnificent insurance and financial institutions got their foundations during the same era, insuring slave ships. There are no clean hands. I don't care what you do for a living. There are no clean hands in this. You are the beneficiaries of a system that has historically preferred you at the expense of those that it simply used as excess labor. So at least understand what white privilege is. It is your white privilege to not tell your son what to do if he gets stopped by a policeman. You tell your son if you are in trouble, go to the police. We tell our sons if you get in trouble, the last person we really want to see is a policeman. Because they will not have the heart to try to figure out what's going on in your life. They're going to assume the worst, and it's just another one. So, I mean, it is hard for you to understand what growing up black in America feels like because you've never had to do it. Now, let me say this quickly. The same Burt Williams, famous comic of the 1910s, said, are you ashamed of being black? He said, no, being black is nothing to be ashamed of. It's just occasionally inconvenient. I wouldn't change who I am for a second. There's nobody white I want to be for a day. There's some black folk I wouldn't mind being for a day. I wouldn't mind being over for a day. You know, just, to be a billionaire for a day would be pretty good. No. I think you just have to appreciate your advantage. Help them appreciate their advantage. Be as honest as you can about your own feelings publicly. Don't convince me. Nobody white should try to convince anybody black that you aren't a racist. I don't care. I've learned to live with it, so it doesn't bother me. You got to convince other white people that you are not and that they should not be. Lord, will you at this time? No. Will you at this time?
So I'm listening to the book, So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijeoma Oluwo. And one of the things she says was she's not too concerned about overt racism. She says she doesn't worry about changing people's minds and changing their hearts. She wants to focus more on the institutional stuff. But don't you need to change enough people's mind to have the numbers to change the institutional stuff, either through political voting means or through protest and movement?
Yeah, I think everybody is trying to hint from their own point of view what the first step is. Is the first step to change the individual, or is the first step to get enough of a critical mass to change the policy? Well, the answer in both cases is yes. So slavery was abolished in 1865, not because the majority of the nation agreed, but because enough members of the Republican Party agreed to vote through, and they maneuvered within the Congress to get it passed, and then Lincoln signed it. I remind you that the Emancipation Proclamation had very little impact on slavery, because its impact was only in those states that were at that time in rebellion against the Union, and since they had already seceded, they could have cared less what Abraham Lincoln said. What ended slavery was the 13th Amendment. But how quickly did we go from the abolition of slavery in 1865 to the birth of the Ku Klux Klan in 1867? So that it becomes one step forward on the wings of those who believe that this is wrong. But they have not yet won the critical mass. America has not yet gained a critical mass on the issue of the equality of all people. And I know that is true because there is no other way to explain how 85% of white evangelical Christians voted for the present occupant of the White House. There's no other way to explain it. Well, okay, maybe they wanted to get these judges because they want to overturn Roe v. Wade. And you know, when you cannot win the argument because the most of the country doesn't want to overturn Roe v. Wade, when you can't win the argument, then you try to win the power game. Let's get 2 or 3 more judges, they'll overturn it, you know, okay. Yeah, I think you have to have both, you got to change hearts. But Martin Luther King used to say, the law cannot make you love me, but it can keep you from lynching me. And that's pretty important too.
Thank you for everything that you're sharing with us and teaching us. I wanted to ask about healing relationships as white people, healing relationships with Black people, and healing racism. I'm doing what we can. So my question is, instead of trying to convince ourselves or anyone that we're not racist, just maybe inherently, because we just benefit from racism, even if we don't think we're racist, like, what would be the appropriate, helpful, healing things to say as we form friendships and relationships and connections with, as white people, with Black people? Like, would it be, is there anything that, you know, you or anyone here would like to tell me would be helpful to hear from the heart? Like, I'm sorry in advance for anything racist that I say or do, and if I do anything, I apologize, and I hope you can tell me, and just know I'm willing to keep working on it. And anything else?
I say this now very earnestly. I do not want to be perceived as being able to speak for every Black person.
Yeah.
So you can only speak for one. There's a song in the Black church that we often sing that says, let the works I've done speak for me. You can say you are a Christian, you can say that you are Jewish, you can say that you are Baha'i, whatever it is that you say you are, okay, that's fine. So now what do those traditions teach about human relations? About the equal worth of all people? What do they say? And do you do that? To the extent that you live out whatever is the creed of the faith tradition of which you are a member, I'm satisfied. Because I firmly believe that all of these major wings in the search for God are going to point in a similar direction. I was on a panel last week with an imam and a rabbi and myself in response to some hate events that had happened in Rochester, New York. Statue of Frederick Douglass torn down and desecrated. A newsman talking about Martin Luther King. Rochester, okay. So I went first, and I said there are 3 aspects of the Christian faith, which if we all just did these 3 things, we could eliminate hatred overnight. One is found in Acts 17. From one blood, God made all nations to dwell together on the face of the earth. In the end, we are all tied to a common creation process. 2, first commandment, love the Lord your God. And second, Matthew 22, love your neighbor as yourself. 3, Matthew 25, I was hungry, I was thirsty, I was naked, I was sick, I was a stranger, I was in prison, and you did something about it. Now, what we discovered was that while we used different texts, well, the rabbi was coming at it from a Talmudic, he was getting deep into the Hebrew, he was taking us to places that we couldn't understand. Okay, all right, okay, that's the thing. Here came the Imam, all this Arabic, from Muhammad, and then he would go off the Arabic. All I could do was just chatter on in English, or fell in the line. We were all saying the same thing. In the end, our common humanity as creatures of God, our obligation to care for others as we ourselves want to be cared for, whether or Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative. Do only those things that you want to have done by everybody else, to everybody else. If you don't want to be a slave, said Lincoln, don't own one. And 3, if you see a person in trouble, well, we're good.
Thank you, Dr. McMickle. Thank you, ma'am, for coming with him. We appreciate you very much. I don't know about you, but I think I'm leaving tonight with a whole load of things to contemplate, to take in, to digest, and hopefully do those 3 things. The last one is what gets me. Next week, we have Dr. Catherine Meeks, and maybe that will address some of the questions that you have. Her area of expertise and her title is Racial Healing and Inner and Outer Journey. She calls herself a midwife to the soul and is director of the Absalom Jones Center for Racial Healing in Atlanta, Georgia, and has been working on this for many, many decades. And I hope she will bring her book because it's excellent. And speaking of books, there's a box of the doctor's books out in the lobby that I'm sure you would love to not take home. So I'm sure they're available for you to purchase. Thank you all very much for coming. Please take what you've learned tonight and take the steps that are necessary, because we can talk about it, but unless we do the works, it's not going to change. So thank you. Your attendance speaks volumes, and I hope that you will go into the community and speak. Thank you and good night.